Her dog being Roxy.
I mean,
They hit Roxy with the
that's
car.
crazy, but I do kind of like it.
Ladies, gentlemen, and those with the good sense to do away with the whole notion, I welcome you to the premier audio medium for all your Fazbear entertainment needs. The Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast. Note, FFPP is not responsible for any loss of appetite, disinterest, dismemberment, or other legally classified statuses. So strap in and enjoy.
Hey guys, just letting you know this is part 2 of a podcast between myself and Corey and Connie from Dual Process Theory. If you want the full conversation and you missed last week's video, you can find it right here, but it was such a good conversation, but also very long. So this is part 2 of our conversation about Secret of the Mimic, feminist critique, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Enjoy! The big question, and this is less feminist critique, but while I have you, I'm really interested in your take on this, because I have my take. How do we feel about the fact that there... So, first of all, do you also think there are 2 Mexis consoles by the time of Secret of the Mimic?
I'm not sure.
Probably. Oh, there was a good... Oh, yes. Okay, yes. So, Fazent was talking to me about this. Mm-hmm. He's convinced there is because there is... Mexis, I believe, is Experimental Storage 2.
Yes.
It says it's the second one.
Yes.
So I think F10 and 4 is Experimental Storage 1, which I think we do see... connected to something somewhere.
Now, there's one thing that always never added up to me about that, because I fully agree with that, but I agree with that with an asterisk in my head that I can't better explain. It's the idea of the Cradle.exe email that explains kind of like what its deal is. Where at this point in the timeline, if M2 is actively going around and being a danger, that implies that M2 is in the endoskeleton, which implies that M1 is in the F10 and 4 console, unless they're like in the same endoskeleton, which I don't think so. There's a whole can of worms. If that is true, in that email, it's like, this will require you to make something bigger than you've ever made before. But F10 and 4 is very clearly the exact same shape, size, and design as the Mexis console.
So my thought was it's something to do with the program, because, and the reason I think if the Mexis machine is a physical machine that became Cradle, it's a mimic. It's gonna just be like, just do this design again. It's not gonna come up with an original design.
You know what it could be? It could be the parent-child nodes that you have to spread around the entire Pizzaplex.
Ooh, that's a fair point. That is a fair point, because I'm convinced that the Mexis entity we see in Ruin is just Cradle.exe in the AR world. Like, it's just the thing that, like, the thing that's supposed to find and put boundaries on the Mimic, something that chases you whenever you use the Mimic. Yeah, I think that adds up.
Yeah.
Something that's keeping the Mimic out of the basement so the Mimic can't go free and
My guess would also be, when Mexis shows up, Cassie also already has a chip in her head. Mm-hmm. So there's probably Mimic in there. When Cradle was made, that wasn't a tech that existed. So it's probably just really confused of like, oh, there's Mimic in there. I should call an animatronic over to come pick it up.
He doesn't know the animatronics are just going to kill her instantly, but he's like, someone's got to look at this.
Like a human person, it's probably just like, oh, there's some Mimic there. Let's take care of that.
Yeah.
The feminist critique.
To wrap back to where we were.
Bring up. Yeah, something I wanted to bring up was something I noticed that we also probably should have mentioned in the video, but we were like speed running production of that.
It's new FNAF time. That means we're pumping out as many goddamn videos as we can for 3 months.
And for us, that's one.
Hey, but it's important to get it out quick, you know.
Yeah.
But something I did also notice that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, I don't think, is so the first time Edwin meets Fiona is he has her like do a voice for his helpful machine, which means that Mrs. Helpful came before Mr. Helpful because Fiona was doing the voice, and yet Mr. Helpful is the one in charge of the whole facility.
Yeah, and it kind of switched over to Mr. Helpful as
Mrs. Helpful was the OG, but then Mr. Helpful's the one that gets utilized and
it's like the introductor for the whole thing.
Yeah. And then she starts playing like the second fiddle.
Hey,
And
not only is it's interesting in both directions, because I think you're right in saying that if somehow it is that Mr. Helpful was an established character and this was that's the craziest called shot that an employer could ever do. Can you imagine your higher up coming down to the lunchroom being like, you have a pretty voice. I play a character called Mr. Helpful. Can you play Mrs. Helpful? And then we're going to talk and hang out a lot about this? That's creepy as hell, actually.
Knowing Edwin, I feel like that would be the riz he would pull.
That's the best he can do.
Work. That's true.
It is, but
work.
he doesn't say like it's in that tape that she says this is
She
a
also
cool invention,
named
what
it
do you call it? And they like
oh,
name
that's
it
true.
there.
That's true. You're right.
But,
you're right.
Like it is. Like, yeah,
So
there
it probably
is
was a Mrs.
something
Helpful first,
there
yeah.
of like Mrs. Helpful came first, but Mr. Helpful gets all the attention, and like there's also the possibility where like we don't have enough information yet, but the possibility of Chica having a diner first, and then being put like third importance in Freddy's like
Either
Freddy's
way,
thing.
her diner
with a-
probably was a separate entity, even if it wasn't before Fredbear's Diner. Perhaps Fredbear's Diner was a sit-down one, and MCM or another person was like, let's make like a parking lot roller skate diner, Even if that's true, she was a separate entity, and the face and name of it. And then at Freddy's, she is the third important, and the only two things she has about herself is she's a lady and she likes to eat pizza.
Mm-hmm.
And that's her only personality traits.
Yeah.
Woman.
And like, yeah, there is like with both of those it's both of those things, like, again, in conjunction with the Fiona bot, like that it's like I feel like they're like there's something here. There is something here. And
which is why also we have such a raised eyebrow to the dog character that is seen as a Springlock. Seen as a Springlock and a story time, where in the story time described as like annoying, but also in the one pronoun they use for that dog is she. So it's the one of things of like, if this represents a person or is connected to someone, whoever she was also completely wiped from the story.
Yeah, because like Gibby brought up the they like kind of 6 founders theory of like those 6 characters in the storybook are representative of
the 6 important people
really important to the foundation of Freddy's, but slowly they all got like erased from history until it was just William and Henry. And like Edwin being either Foxy or Monty, and like I think Gibby was proposing Monty, and someone did also point out Monty
there's a lot of
Foxy
Foxy
legs,
stuff.
and Edwin can't feel his legs, but there
fair.
Who else was Corey brought up that like he does seem a bit more Foxy coded, and gosh, now I need to pull up another.
It was the general.
Was it who made a like video basically pointing out that the Foxy like Showtime, all the Foxy log rides and stuff seem to be very Edwin coded. Hold on.
Well,
in F1 too, it's Jack Moon that attacks you. It's Jack Moon that attacks you in the second one.
Clavis Key was the Clavis Key. They pointed out that the like Edwin, like the Foxy story in the puppet show is like, oh, Foxy's ship is attacked by an octopus, but him and his crew work together and save the day. And then in Curse of Dreadbear, the story is, oh, Foxy is on his own and he's attacked by an octopus, and he almost dies, but then he just decides to work with the octopus and be best friends with him. Like, it's very Edwin and Fazbear coded.
Yeah, well, there's also I said it was Edwin coded because they have like these restaurants, and then he's off on his own doing his own thing in, say, Pirates Cove. He's definitely shy, but also part of it is that something very specific is in the story times. One of the lines is that the fox is playing a game of chess, and Edwin has a chessboard in his room. The reason this is also significant is it says the rabbit decides to play cards. and there are Mystic Hippo cards in the Fazbear truck.
I think another thing to point out, and I got an email on this a couple weeks ago, and it spawned into a whole video, was that the end of that storybook, that line being said by Fiona, is the real treasure. Some paraphrasing, the real treasure was friendship, and the Pirate Foxy show, both log flumes, all of those end with the real treasure was friendship, or something along those lines.
Yeah, that was what Clavis
Which is something
calling
never
it,
through Edwin's head, I guess.
calling this friendship theory. Of all the friendship stories are like the the tale of Edwin, but how Fazbear's trying to cover it up and all that. But the thing with the 6 founders I was bringing up is, like, Edwin is either Foxy or Monty. Whoever's Monty is probably Old Man Consequences. That's a whole separate thing.
Yeah, that's a whole thing.
The thing with Bub that Gibby brought up, but like I'm kind of low-key obsessed with, is the idea of Bub being Mrs. Afton, in that we see this like
be the craziest thing of all time.
We see this random dog who's like, this random dog, and we're like, we've never seen this before. Where did she come from? Like, really isn't important, and then you find out that she's been there since the beginning, but has been systematically like erased from the narrative.
And like the first one to be, because like there's a Monty Springlock, and he at least came back. We have not seen this dog.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, like Bub is. It seems like it was supposed to originally be the Sparky animatronic, and the design got changed. So like I don't know what behind the scenes happened there, but like,
there could be some behind the scenes
now
stuff.
She looks a lot like Fetch. And even that Fetch is,
that's also a thing.
A male dog. Fetch is a different thing.
What is, although I will say with the 6 founders theory, if it is like a person who's important in the creation of this, they mention that the puppy, the third one mentions that the puppy yips and yaps and gives everyone a headache. So if anything, if this isn't like indicative of anything, that I'm thinking like songwriter. Because they're all musical performances.
Especially with, the classic interpretation of, if Circus Baby was made for Elizabeth, was Ballora made for Mrs. Afton.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
and Ballora being that songstress.
Yeah, which goes to the
criticism. Why does she look like? Why does Ballora look like that?
Speaking of that feminist criticism, something that the thing is like we don't know for sure what's going on, but from what I've seen is a lot of the Henry and Fiona design animatronics, the women look normal. I don't know about the toy animatronics, but William designs female animatronics in a very specific way.
Yeah,
and
he's a big fan of something.
Is there two girl characters instead of one? And is she the header? Yes, that's fair. But also the 2 women there are like sexy wife and daughter. That's the 2 personality types.
The 2 gender.
Usually, if you see a female character, that is the 2 personality types they're allowed to have. And again, it's designed a very specific way. Like, we don't need to see William interact with women to kind of generally get his mindset, even if he wasn't overtly sexist. It's there, and he's not keeping anything about himself in check. So
and William Afton literally like, hey, I'm not sexist. I killed both boys and girls.
Yeah,
exactly.
In fact, he killed more boys than girls.
Like, there is definitely, like, it's subtext, but there's definitely something of a through line of introducing female characters as, like, major players who have gotten erased and sidelined, of, like, Mrs. Helpful, Chica, and, like, Bub. Like, I can't think of any other to introduce Bub other than, why not have it be,
with she,
like,
her pronouns.
Why not have it be Roxy? Why not have it be, like,
the
I don't
wolf,
know, DJ Music Man, Balloon Boy, like
anybody
Ballora,
else but
like,
Bub
Puppet,
specifically.
it seems like the puppet. Yeah, it seems and like also there's got to be something with Fiona designing the puppet. Like there is something there, but like there is a definite through line of female leads getting shoved to the side or erased by
which
male counterparts.
I think works with a lot of the Mimic. Now that we've seen everything since Secret of the Mimic, is very connected to a lot of female characters, and that kind of the midpoint of that would be Elizabeth, who is probably happy that she's the center point of anything. She usually doesn't count in a lot of cases. But she, there's... Obviously, we can't take everything from, like, the Silver Eyes, but he was, William was kind of pushing her aside and not wanting to hang out with his kid.
Literally, he was literally pushing her aside.
He was literally physically pushing her aside because he's a really bad father. And there's a lot of mimicky stuff going on around Circus Baby with the chip, with, hey, can you remove what's evil and leave what's good, which makes me think that I think another good evidence point, this would have to be a whole thing, but another good evidence point for the fact that M1 isn't haunted is Circus Baby is. And I think if she did have a mimic chip, she was actively fighting it. They didn't like each other. To the point where she was like, and what's interesting, something we were talking about in like the deep hours of the night on theorist servers, is the Circus Baby is probably without her endoskeleton at this point because she's already been to the scuba room and she's sitting in kind of lacking endoskeleton pose. Which means if there is a mimic chip, it's in her exoskeleton, or her shell, which makes me think of Ballora will not return to her body. I think they might have all had mimic chips and the ghosts did not like it. I really think they did not like being in their shell, hence Ennard and wanting to escape.
Yeah,
and not
I like that, especially
to
combining it with the whole like shocking to keep them in line and things like that.
Yeah.
Because the mimic was probably keeping their character in line because, I mean, if they're giving them a voice box that can do like an AI generated voice instead of just preset lines, because it has to be that instead of preset lines, then like you're gonna need to make sure the personality is in check, or someone's gonna start talking about child murder.
How fitting that it is the sister location
really
animatronics.
Fast.
I was gonna say, how fitting is it that it's the sister location animatronics, which are the only ones whose design can allow for it to literally have the endoskeleton bursting through the exoskeleton and being contained by that malleable exoskeleton itself.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And there's obviously some mimicky stuff going on with Ennard as an endoskeleton of being able to fit in Mike, which here's the thing, which I always, as soon as I heard, the mimic can fit in any suit, I went, that's how Ennard fit in Michael's skin, because it had the components of that.
Well, it's also a reverse springlock suit. The idea of like, we have these springlock suits where the insides get pushed to the sides so a human can go inside. Swap that, reverse it, right?
Yeah. And
dude, the sister location ending is still like
one of the endings of
best
time.
Moments of
now that we know
now
that we actually know what's going on, it's one of the endings of all time. It's great.
Look, even without that, it's like you go down to the basement. They murdered and hanged like 2 employees in order to trick the motion sensors, and then like they scoop out your innards and wear your body. Like that's
it's intense.
Which, I mean, there is and it is, and that's what's great about early FNAF, that if they want to show less gore, I think Secret of the Mimic did pretty well of doing a good job of having some really gory stuff without needing to show it. And part of that is a good thing, because in horror, you need to let the unseen shine. And Sister Location does that really well, of once you get what the scooper is, you're like, oh, his guts are all over the floor, and it lets you create that imagery. And I think Secret of the Mimic did that pretty well, of the Mimic shoving dead employees into suits, of you just see hands and like blood stains and stuff like that. And
like
again, another reference to Sister Location, the body that's hanging. Which, again, we haven't seen since Sister Location. And there's a lot of Mimic connections with Sister Location, but I think part of that is with Secret of the Mimic and re-looking at it for other reasons, but also just in general. The Silver Eyes trilogy makes a lot more sense as a whole.
Yeah.
It was the beta test, I think, or the beta idea.
Yeah.
It was the beginning of it. It was, it was version 1. Something like the first iteration. The first closet was the Silver Eyes, let's say.
Yeah.
And I could almost dot out how that story became the Mimic, and how many similarities there are, even with, like, say, we could even go down the line and be like, okay, the 4th endoskeleton that, Henry beat up was stolen by William and shoved into Circus Baby. Well, we have the program at least, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that has a lot of connections. And I think seeing Charlie Bot as a mimic makes Charlie Bot make a lot more sense as well, because part of it is there's obviously the Ella doll, like White Tiger connection, I think, that exists. But not only is it also a woman in his life, but I can't take any of her personality as an older child as anything of what Charlie would actually be like, because it's like she is made from quite literally Henry's memories of his daughter. Of course she didn't grow up to be into tech because that's what her dad was into. That's what he would have wanted her to be into. So we can't know for sure if she was actually interested in that stuff.
And similar
Meanwhile,
to the
there's of
Mimic,
course
I was going to say, and similar to the Mimic, built off of false memories because the creator does not think the creation can handle what actually happened.
yeah, exactly.
And even then, she and then she was later, adopted and raised by Aunt Jen, so like she became her own person. Like even like looking at feminist critique, like after reading The Silver Eyes, I have a lot of complaints about that trilogy, like from a writing standpoint.
They could have done it. They could have made it so powerful now, knowing mimic stuff. But
I think the women were handled really well in that trilogy. Charlie's very tomboyish, Jessica's very femme, and Marla's very.
So she's interested in like archaeology.
Yeah, but like they're all treated as like people who are like have their own thoughts.
People, what?
Yeah, which like
Closest we get to like
unfortunately high bar for literature, but
yeah.
Yeah.
But closest we get to like is like to weird is like the third book, where it's even like kind of lampshaded of the fourth Charlie being like extra feminine, of like there's a bit where she's at dinner with John and she's like, yeah, I just needed a makeover after all that trauma, like, and she says something weird. She says like, Aunt Jen always wanted me to be more girly, and like with every other characterization of Aunt Jen, that really doesn't seem like something she'd say, and it was probably just Elizabeth trying to push Aunt Jen into the conversation because she's trying to figure out what she
saw the graphic novel iteration. That was projection. That was projection. Yeah. That was projection on Elizabeth's part. She was sitting there doing makeup so that her dad would look at her. Like, let's...
Yeah.
Which, again, there's, again, another thing of, quite a few of us have talked about how, with Elizabeth having the detached mangle in her room, which was a take apart and put back together toy, and her having this obsession with putting stuff back together, and potentially being the mastermind behind Ennard, who looks human-like, and Molten Freddy, who doesn't have Elizabeth, is on the floor in wires. Elizabeth is probably the child who would have grown up to be interested in tech, probably already was, with her taking apart and putting Mangle back together in her room, which is fascinating because she was the ignored child.
Yep.
When it came to William, you would think, as someone who is incredibly self-absorbed, loves control, loves being in, having, again, incredibly self-absorbed. You think he would love that one of his kids is interested in tech stuff. You'd be like, oh yes, let me show you all this dark science that I'm doing in my basement. You think he would love that, but it's like, okay, well, why did he ignore Elizabeth then? Did he never know because he never gave her the chance? Did he was it the fact that he was so focused on other stuff or his other dead kids and the kid he hated that she got put to the wayside? Was it because she was a little girl and he didn't see little girls that way? Like, it could be multiple ways. It could be multiple things. But I do think it's interesting that out of all the characters, Elizabeth is the most tech leaning. And I think that even includes what we know about Charlie.
Yeah.
She obviously has this obsession with helping people, and she probably helped the kids possess the bodies better. But let's be real, that deals with ghost possession, and she's, she clearly had a love, Henry states in his, remembering of her that she really liked helping people. So if anything, it's would she have grown up to be a doctor or a service worker? That would fit much more with what we've seen of Charlie.
And, to wrap back to Secret of the Mimic and, the feminist lens of the continuing story, I think another point in the direction of this is very intentional and this is very purposeful is when we look at how Princess Quest is interacting with the story, where we literally have a game that is created around a princess who is defenseless, who has no weapon, who has no way to defend herself from the things around her. And to break out of that and to free Vanessa from Glitchtrap's hold, we are literally introducing a weapon. We are arming this helpless princess, and within one game, the game and the whole framework of that cannot handle it so much that it devolves back to a help wanted creation, which there's implications with that. And what are the two areas in that help wanted creation that continue to help liberate this princess, but two areas that are dedicated to a character Fiona specifically designed, being Foxy and Chica, right? And then all of that culminating in this. It's almost as if to break free from this, glitch trap thing, obviously we need to arm the princess and all that. But if you go back to this feminist lens of it, we have the devolved nature of the mimic as these female figures in this story be changed and be sanitized in Fiona into a mimic, in Bub being erased and things like that. And it seems like the way we are counteracting this and the way we're fighting back about this, we are simultaneously giving autonomy back to those who were erased.
The current women,
yes, the current
involved.
women we have, who and then in that way, I wonder if the recent teaser of Forgotten Names and Faces is involved in that.
Yeah,
every time people, I know it's just a way to spell FNAF, but I just think of I always think of Windmills.
That's a banger title though. Like if they wanted to just title a game Forgotten Names and Faces, people would know what it was.
True.
Well, yeah, I always think of the song. Like it makes me think of the song "Windmills of Your Mind," and I think it's half remembered names and faces, but like my mind always just defaults to half forgotten names and faces. That's also an oldie.
Which,
so
I mean, again,
Scott might know what that one is.
With the idea of the erasure of specifically women, well, I think also with the idea of, I think when we were bringing out of that they could be using this dog character to bring Mrs. Afton again. We'll see what happens. The first mention we've ever seen of her existing is in Security Breach.
Yeah.
100%. So it's like, again, we have to take everything from Security Breach with a grain of salt because, Scott did his best to kind of retroactively change some stuff, but Ruin is really the only step forward where he was like, okay, I'm just gonna, I can't not tell you guys stuff. So, but they also said that there's very specific stuff that Scott told them to put in. I wouldn't be surprised if the sticky note room and the Afton family there wasn't part of that. So it's the idea of, and again, what people have pointed out for various reasons, it's incredibly strange that she's at the head of the table. Either this implies importance or it wants you to see her.
Yeah.
She's not just sitting next to Mike or sitting next to Elizabeth. It's like the first person you can only see her on her own. Which either means she's isolated or they wanted to visually separate her for importance or, other reasons. So I think her coming back into the conversation of, are they going to do something with that? Maybe less so like, we can do a little bit of theorizing, but for me, it's more, are they going to do something with that?
Oh, I just thought of something.
Yeah.
Not only in the talking of the rearming and giving autonomy back to these feminine characters that have been taken away. The only animatronic we can repair in Ruin is literally giving Chica her voice back.
Shut up! You're
oh my god!
No.
A Fiona designed character who is female, who had her own her own restaurant, who, like you said, gets litigated to third fiddle. Suddenly, Cassie being the one who gives her literally her voice back.
Yeah,
and I was just going to bring up connection is like, people compare her to like Cassidy, and we don't both we're Cassidy atheists over here.
Believe she exists,
but like I personally think like if she's a parallel to any of the dead kids, it's Charlie, and like the idea of also her being vaguely giving Charlie back agency of, or like
there is also our friend
like,
our friend driving back from Red Fair made a very compelling case of Cassie actually like going back to the beginning. Actually, there is a lot of evidence that Cassie could be the Susie connected character. Part of it was there's still like the Chica Chowda stuff. There's A little girl gets drawn into this back area via using someone saying, no, they're not dead or missing, they're here. And then also they hit her dog with a car. Her dog being Roxy.
I mean,
They hit Roxy with the
that's
car.
crazy, but I do kind of like it.
Anyway, it is still like her like vaguely paralleling a former little girl who got murdered and like kind of like being like the second chance for agency there. And like and Vanessa, like there's so many things we can say about Vanessa, especially like in regards to like the movie, like her her and Michael like parallel.
Her lack of agency is like
her
the
lack
most
of
we know about
agency
her.
is like the main thing we're supposed to focus on with her is like help wanted is immediately like, okay, you're possessed.
Yeah.
And then like AR is immediately like, yeah, the mimic is like sending her flowers for her grave and Googling how to torture people. Like,
Yeah.
Her lack of agency is also another thing that's very pronounced. And like, whether you believe like she gets it back in Princess Quest or if she's gonna get it back or if that's going to be like a recurring theme.
I do think
like,
the thing is that this does it is an aspect of the kind of theme of kind of like say generational trauma and repeating past mistakes, where taking back agency I think is a pretty huge, has kind of always been a thing in the franchise. One, because there's ghost children in animatronics that have preset stuff, and at night they're able to do whatever they want and not sing the same stupid song every day. There's a taking back of agency there, and then but I think also part of it is with William fleshed out, having someone who, has a lot of, or as a character is written with a lot of, say, like narcissistic traits. He is a kind of a control freak, and the most of the kind of heightening of him being defeated is a character usually being able to take back agency. We see this the most in the movie of, oh, you were lying to us, we're gonna kick your butt. And it's Vanessa able to
too,
take
like,
back her agency of, shooting him. And I mean, I would say that with the sister location of Mike getting up and deciding to hunt him, there is obviously, it's one of those where that one is more bittersweet or a half and half because he's taking his agency back and he's not doing what his dad tells him anymore, but his afterlife is still completely revolved around him. Yeah. So it's the idea of like, it's one of those, but I think it is interesting of, it is not replaced by this reading of it. I think the fact that women losing their agency and being given it back is an aspect of this, especially when it comes to like, a lot of people have family history of like, yeah, my grandparents were set up by their parents, or my grandma was way too young to be getting married. Like a lot of people have women losing agency in their family history. And it's the idea of like, this is an aspect of generational trauma as well, of women passing on the sexism they grew up with onto their daughters and saying, no, women should be in the home. You shouldn't have your own wants and ideas. And mothers can tell that to their daughters. It is definitely a part of it.
And another thing is like the gaining back agency thing. I think it's also, we can also point out, it isn't just with the girls, with Gregory being very, very similar to the crying child. Obviously, crying child had zero agency at any given point.
Yeah. Like, and there is
that could be a whole thing of like parents controlling their kids or whatever. But
and I think that's a huge aspect of Gregory's character is when we first saw him, we went, oh, he looks like the crying child. And then like one of his first lines is, Freddy, shut up! And he's immediately the sassiest like little shit. He automatically sets himself apart from both Crying Child and what we know of David. Well, what we know of either of them. We know the most about Gregory personality wise.
Yeah.
He sets himself apart from both of them by being his own person. And I think there is an aspect of that, of like mimic projection of, I wouldn't be surprised if part of like God David or whatever is the mimic just can't differentiate I mean, I used AI Dungeon back in the day. You input your name, it's in the program, and it will forget it like 3 lines in. I wouldn't be surprised if the Mimic just thinks David, Crying Child, and potentially Gregory are just the same person because it's a robot and it's stupid. They looked similar enough, so it decided they were the same person.
I am Drew, and I am Danny, and we are not the same person.
God, and that even goes into Escape the Pizzaplex and how much we should consider it, because it doesn't really add anything that we wanted it to.
In fact, it kind of doesn't make sense within the timeline of what we see in Ruin.
Oh God, Escape the Pizzaplex, what you could have been. But
yeah. my
is also
go-to like with Escape the Pizzaplex is I feel like it was supposed to be canon, but I feel like there wasn't enough checking over to make sure it was canon, so now it's in a weird gray area.
What I feel like with Escape the Pizzaplex
Cassie
is
calling the Pizzaplex like that old place. Why would Gregory want to meet me here when she met Gregory there every night for months? It doesn't add up. Roxy only referring to her as that girl from the birthday party instead of my best friend Cassie.
Yeah,
that it doesn't add up.
It doesn't.
To me, it feels like it was a Tales from the Pizzaplex story that got scrapped and then was expanded upon into a narrative novel. And yeah, like remade and
entirely possible.
Because it feels, especially because of how linear it feels, right? Like there's 7 endings and they're all the same ending.
Yeah, I could see it as a scrap, which that would be why they didn't release it and released Monster instead, which is a whole different. That could be a whole critique of that story. Is a whole it became a whole podcast on its own when Connie was reading it, because Connie has a creative writing degree and she went off.
Ryan, I was actually on your server and I was like, I got the book. I'll read it out loud for anyone who wants to hear it. And I did that, and then as soon as it was done, I ended up on like a 3-hour ramble.
God,
that's the reason they didn't release it.
Like, just which one was Monster?
That was the one where it wasn't supposed to be released. It was scrapped. And then they finally put it into the
it's the quote-unquote cancel culture one, right?
Definitely unfinished. It was very unpolished.
Oh yeah, I was like,
I remember this one now. I remember why I forgot this one.
I think the most, it's probably the most they were trying to go for is potentially like William is really charismatic and hides his weird tendencies behind closed doors, but like, yeah, we knew.
No, we didn't need this.
We know. I mean, there's a reason it was scrapped.
Yeah, there's a reason it was scrapped. You can tell. But
I was
unlike the Scoop, which should have been finished, and I will die on that hill. But
yeah, there is also something interesting. There is something interesting too. It's hard to say if the writers of Tales from the Pizzaplex really kind of knew the feminist undertones of things, with specific characters involved, at least. I mean, there's Nexie, so there's that. But but I think if it came out the most, it's the fact that there was a final girl with the Mimic, that being Lucia.
Yeah, I was where
she really does. She is literally trapped with the Mimic. Feels trapped in her life because right now most of her kind of thought process is revolving around this guy. And then is a little gay with another girl who does die.
Yeah.
And then literally traps the Mimic instead and outsmarts it and beats it. And turns it off. And then frees herself. You know, there's something about her being literally trapped in a location and freeing herself from this Mimic. And as well as, like, there's a lot of, kind of freeing herself from, like, the societal stuff. I remember a line where later on she's like, I was worried about this. Oh my God, earlier this night I was worried about this. Imagine, I was so, what's the word?
So concerned with how I appeared to other people.
Yeah, like, I was so superficial. Like, that's so superficial to worry about. Why was I worried about that? Where, like, 3 of my friends are dead now. Yeah, like, she's like, this put a lot of things into perspective for her about, like, why did I care?
Yeah.
The Mimic is ripping limbs off and I watched it.
Casual reminder, honestly, anytime the epilogues get brought up, casual reminder, L to Kelsey Trap. Anyway, continue, sorry.
L to Kelsey Trap. Although I will say, again, we made a joke at the end of our video. I was like, hey, we see that Ringmaster Rat, like,
Yeah.
that's the last thing we see before we exit the
so
building,
exactly,
and
so
then the
there
Mimic
is a
also had
so
bunny
there
ears
is
and
a
went through a fire, so Lucia is not
yeah, there is
currently not out of the running.
That Ringmaster Rat character appears throughout the game, but very sporadically, and never
Corey, I
finished.
believe what it was in the files. It looks like that was supposed to be Mr. Helpful and then got replaced, or like they were doing animation tests.
I remember
with
there
Mr.
is
Helpful
some
with the
kind of
rat.
animation in the files that like similar to the intro, which would have made
Yes.
a lot of sense for a Ringmaster Rat to do that intro, but later being changed to Mr. Helpful to introduce
See,
that
I
character.
think what they did makes more sense because one, Mr. Helpful being there makes more
Oh,
sense.
yeah.
But also, if I think of a ringmaster in FNAF, like I'm gonna think of William. So there is that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the thing is, what I realized is I never I don't know how intentional this was, but when casting for William, they said that he wanted him to sound like a snake oil salesman, which originated selling at medicine shows at carnivals and circuses.
Well, I mean,
So
not to
William's
mention,
always had
what do you
this
call it?
colorful thing going on.
Well, what else would you describe a guy who systematically stole your employees from your business over and over again and then changed your contract multiple times to financially ruin you, other than a rat, right? So literally a ringmaster rat is a perfect way to describe William Afton.
I
I think they definitely landed on we're gonna stick with the rabbit stuff, probably because they were like, we're not gonna do yellow guy again.
Yeah.
like
But then you know they make it make sense of always looking for a
immediately
place.
after watching Secret of the Mimic. I posted like, "Damn, William stole his house, his employees, his business, and his man."
It's Mr. Steal Your House.
I don't know if you've seen Fazent's new video, but like that Corey was in. But like, I am fully convinced that Henry was the leak. Like,
I
it's a lot going over. We really think it, but something. But the reason I was bringing that up is what is if they left rat stuff in the game? It's either very purposeful or very accidental, because it's never finished. We see some blueprints at one point. We see like pieces, like unpainted pieces, and then while you're leaving, you're crawling through a tunnel, and you see the head like staring at you, and then you run out. See, that could have been a thing of like, the end is the beginning kind of thing originally. So I could absolutely see that. I could also see it as why then wouldn't they replace it with like a burnt Mr. Helpful head? Did they just
especially
forget?
'cause, like,
Did they not see
Mr.
that
and
when
Mrs. Helpful
testing?
lines- With all the Mr. and Mrs. Helpful lines, the Ringmaster Rat probably got replaced early.
Yeah, that must have been early. Or the Ringmaster Rat was for something else, and they were like, no, let's do this, and they just animation tested with Mr. Helpful. Like, that's not impossible. You would think they would have then replaced it. But again, like, my hope, I'm gaslighting myself into believing that they're hinting at a DLC for Secret of the Mimic, that's Secret of the Mimic's Ruin, where you play as Lucia, and it's the game's version of the epilogues. I know it's not going to happen, but that is my hope. I'm gaslighting myself into believing this is
Corey,
the truth.
I also forgot, we're also throwing rats at the Mimic constantly.
Yes.
That is a fair
those
point,
two,
yeah.
those two.
Although I think technically in the files, aren't they like chipmunks or something?
I think because when
they're
you
not
put
called-
them into the computer to like save that, and when you put them into the inventory, it says
think they're
like,
called
wind up
mice.
rat. It's
Yeah.
wind up mouse or wind up rat or something.
Okay, I forget
don't
where I
remember.
heard chipmunk. To be
But like,
honest with you.
in case anyone
But still, I mean,
doesn't
even
remember,
regardless,
in the
a small rodent is a small rodent.
In
Yeah.
case anyone doesn't remember, in the epilogues, Lucia wears a rat costume to hide from the Mimic.
It's a rat or mouse, she said. It's some type
Well,
of
yeah,
rodent.
she said rat or mouse, and I when I first read that, I just thought that was like a Chuck E. Cheese joke.
It probably is and was. Yeah.
At the time,
But
yeah.
like, then having like the brown rat when she hides in the brown rat, like
Being the distraction, and
games,
then
I
one of
was
the
like,
last things you
oh,
see
there's
is running
our
out of the
girl.
building, staring down at you. Like, there may or may not. If there isn't something there connected to Lucia, it's left over from Ringmaster Rat potentially being important. But I'm hoping it's somehow connected to.
well, and also because like Into the Pit's bringing Stitch Wraith stuff in, and so like we know Scott likes those epilogue stories.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
on the
epilogues were, I think,
wrote
the
a
best
lot
part
of
of
them.
Tales from the Pizzaplex. Like, I would just read the epilogues on their own as a book. I kind of did.
Listen, Scott Cawthon, I am begging you. Werther Deladera, the guy who illustrates Something is Killing the Children.
Ooh, yeah.
Get him to do a Mimic epilogue graphic novel. It would be so
that
cool.
would be so good.
It
What I
be
would
so
give for a
cool.
graphic novel to combine the epilogue, like not into like two graphic novels, one for the Fazbear Frights epilogue, one for the Tales of the Pizza Podcast epilogue.
Yeah.
Because the only way to consume this media being buying every single book when I get my hands on you, and also that would give me
To
good
be
graphics
fair-
to use for videos.
To be fair, Hoopla exists.
Yeah, that's how.
That's how I listen to it.
That's
Is
how we
Connie
read all the
skips
books.
to the end of all the audiobooks so that I could just play the audiobooks in order and
Real.
treated it like selecting chapters.
Shout out to Suzanne Elise Freeman, the audiobook reader, for saving my ass.
Yeah.
We're at about an hour and a half on this recording, so I want to make
yeah.
sure we've touched on everything we want to, because we're already double time of a usual podcast. 'Cause
Yeah,
there's a lot to
which
talk
we,
about.
yeah, we kind of figured.
There's a lot
I
to
mean, I
talk-
think
and
I
guest
never
episodes run
apologize
long.
for long podcasts.
No.
People love
Yeah.
Yeah, guest
I think
episodes
that
run long, and that's a good thing. I just want to make sure as we begin to wrap up, we're not leaving anything left out we want to talk about.
I think I touched on it minorly, but the one thing I have to talk about is that it is interesting that the two main like mimic characters, as I was seeing it, is like Henry's daughter and then like Edwin's wife. They're both being specifically female characters. And then there was something. I think it's just that the erasure and replacement of women is a real thing that happens. And even if it is a idealized or a loved version, it's not fully them.
Yeah.
And it is, I think, potentially purposeful that both times this happened, they could have just done the Silver Eyes again, but just had David. They could have had 4 David bots. But Scott was like, actually, let's do his wife, and he has a wife bot. And there, there's something there of the main things we see there until, like, Gregory is mainly women. And then there is also something of we brought up sexism of the times, but also there's the fact of Fiona talking about dieting. But then there is something to the fact of she's talking about losing weight and dieting. Meanwhile, the mimic is literally a skeleton. There's something to that. There's something there, I think.
God, I don't remember who brought it up, but someone said it's entirely possible that like the in-universe meta of Chica is Fazbear was like, well, we don't want to promote unhealthy eating, so she's gonna be all about exercise now.
Right. All of the
Oh,
characters
yeah,
that have been about exercise and fitness was Ballora and Chica.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, again, that industry is much more put to women than it is to men. A lot of the industry itself is dumb as a whole, but a lot of it is marketed towards women. So Chica being
like was pointed out earlier, it's almost closer to the corporations suck criticism than anything.
yes. I mean, again, corporations' mistreatment of women is an aspect of that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Corporations hate women and hate you having them.
It's
because
one of those things where, like, any kind of bigotry that involves anything gender or sexuality, the further you dig down, the closer you get right back to hating women, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's everything goes down to hating women, hating minorities. Like
Yeah.
Yep.
Which, what it is interesting about is that the reason why it's like subtext, and Edwin probably thought he was progressive for the time or whatever, is that there are multiple female employees named in Secret of the Mimic. There's like Barb. There's it's like it's something. They have multiple female employees. None of them are in the biggest positions of power, but they are there.
Yeah, and there's this weird undertone of a parasocial nature of Edwin too, where it's like, there's the whole like, oh, our employees are our family, but like there is this very weird parasocial aspect of Edwin where he's like, yeah, the employees don't come up to my house for like game night anymore, and that's really weird of them that they don't do that. Why don't they like me anymore? And it's very strange that like he almost seems more obsessed about his own employees seeing him as a friend than his family seeing him as a father.
Well, and also he's like, why don't they come up to game night anymore? And then he turns around and locks them in the building until they finish their
Right?
work.
Yeah, I think that gets into a different, just to touch on it, I was looking into the 60s had a lot of workers' uprisings, specifically in factory workers, specifically black factory workers, unionizing, gathering together, stopping work until they got better pay. There was a lot of that in the 60s, which is when Edwin's dad would have been running the company. And there was the one tape recorder of "Dad was right, they weren't my friends." Which, if it was, some people say this is about Fazbear Entertainment. I think
it very well could be.
What about Fazbear Entertainment is him. There's another one of him saying, like, Fiona was right, Fazbear Entertainment sucks, or something like that.
Yeah.
Which, okay, then that's the one about that. If he's talking about his dad, and this is him, his voice acting is very much in his paranoid state. This could very well have been him locking out his employees, which, if so, that means his dad told him not to trust the employees, which very well could have been because of all of the workers' riots in the 60s.
Which, by the way, wild choice. I respect it, but wild choice to have the Murray family voiced by an actual husband, wife, and child. They just bring them into the booth and they say, "Hey, you guys are getting along. What if you weren't?"
Well, I like it because Fiona, they did such a good job humanizing her. And I think that's such a huge aspect of why we notice so much of this stuff and why it's like, why feminism comes into the conversation. Because they made sure she wouldn't just be a wife. She has a very specific voice that I don't know if I've ever heard in a video game. She has a gap between her teeth. She has, very specific speaking mannerisms and ways she talks about people. And she's able to be a mother and have a big heart and, love her family while also being so human.
Yeah.
And I think they really sat down to work on that because I think her being so human is incredibly important to show the difference between her being so human and M1 being so not. And they want you to look at that and say, how come Edwin doesn't see the difference? Because looking at it enough, we can see the difference. Edwin did not. Until it was too late.
He should have even, especially considering the engagement or the proposal we talked about, where he even mentions like you're pretty in an asymmetrical way. And to go back to that, like she has that gap in her teeth. We look at the mimic, who is a horrifying monstrosity, but it does have a perfect set of straight teeth.
Yes, it's
just like a
mechanical,
microcosm.
It's symmetrical. It's
skinny.
It's literally a skeleton, and it's fascinating. With you think he would. And you get into, there's sexism of the time, there's how he was raised, potentially as soon as she became a wife and mother, the programming of his brain started seeing her differently. Like, there is stuff there. Well, there's also, he was definitely more engaged in his work before she died, so there might have been a few years where he kind of fell out of touch with her and lost that image a bit.
Because when they first are together, it seems like they are together by the time his father dies. It seems like they are, which means that like those first few tapes when it's very endearing, it's very touching, his father's alive, his father's running the company, he has more time too. He has more time to notice these things where creating is a passion, not his job. And then once it becomes his job, it becomes the focus of his life and everything else goes to the wayside.
And then once they become executives, she's saying, "Ed, I hate having to communicate with you through this stupid bear."
Yeah.
Yup. And he proposes via that, which, there could be the thing of, like, Connie thought the cutest version of that is that then she turns around and he's there with the ring, which is the best idea, but it's also possible he just fully proposed to her with the bear. Like, it is...
he's just, like, in another room, like, doing work.
She'll find it eventually. I work to do.
And that also gets into it's partially a sexism thing of like what who coined it? Who was I watching that kind of talked about it might have been Funky Frogbait. This kind of male martyrdom that's been rising again of I need to be at war and working for my family, and they'll basically torture themselves every day to appear like a strong, capable man, whether that's working out past their limits or working too many hours. It's this weird through line of self-sacrifice to appear more manly and appear like a caregiver. And that could absolutely be a part of it, especially with the idea of Edwin might not have known his dad very well. I mean, he didn't even know why he left him the company.
Yeah.
There is definitely this kind of, with Edwin, who I just clicked. The character he really reminds me of is Asgore Dreamer from Undertale, of a guy who has a big heart, but probably shouldn't be the one in charge.
I fully agree with you, and I need to put a big red warning sign. We can stay in this metaphor. We cannot stop talking about Undertale. This podcast will turn into a 10-hour
I
video.
immediately was like, I can't start talking about Undertale. I can't. That's a whole thing.
10-hour video if we start talking about Undertale.
So
Undertale is a lot.
Base is big heart, probably shouldn't be in charge, and isn't really sure how to treat his wife.
Yeah. Also, probably also children, but we don't know that for sure when it comes to Asgore, at least.
Yeah.
And the idea of kind of throwing yourself into work to avoid problems, but also the good things as well, like your wife and children. And it's Edwin. Well, it's what it is Edwin hits me as someone who would be good as a creative, as a designer. I don't think he should be at the top of the food chain. Yeah. He doesn't hit me as someone who's good at being a CEO. There are people, and good people, who are really good at that. And Edwin got that position because he's a Nepo baby. Yeah. And if someone else was in charge or running it, or he trusted more people to divvy out more of the work, then he would have been able to have time to spend with his wife and child. And that would have made him a good father. But in his mind, what makes him a good father is being a hard worker and being a powerful boss.
Yeah.
You
see even that in the one audio log where he's like, they treated me like a contractor and cracked the whip at me to get to work or whatever. It's like, okay, well, in this essence, you are a contractor. And it almost seems like he's more bitter about the fact that they are giving him a directive rather than, being impersonal about it. It seems like he's just mad that he's not the one making the decision at that point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And a lot of stuff in life, a lot of issues are about power struggles. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot we could go into of the thing is, and this was, going back to the beginning when we said a lot of people were like, well, Edwin can't be sexist, he loves his wife. So, some people were a little more, open with it of, this happened because Edwin has a slew of other problems of not trusting people, of pushing people away, all that stuff we've just been talking about. And I think what we could say here, and what they don't fully understand, is that it can absolutely be both.
Yeah.
And it can be, he is treating Fiona a certain way because of his childhood, his past trauma, all this stuff, in a way that is very sexist. Mm-hmm. Again, probably not even knowing it.
Yeah, like you touched on earlier, he's not like the worst man in the world who is purposely doing these things because he doesn't. He probably, in his mind, thinks that this is what love is. This is how people. He doesn't see these microcosms.
Exactly.
Yeah. Especially as a man in the 70s who's not going to recognize his own sexism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or be called out on it, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, if actual commercials could have stuff like the Cleanovac, then he wasn't going to be called out if he was like, he wasn't going to be in our video on modern standards for sexism.
Yeah. Corey, I don't even know if you remember the visuals in our video. I would flash actual 1970s ads that were extremely sexist.
Yeah, yeah, there were. From what I remember, there were quite a few of those. Again,
frankly,
in the 70s,
of the time, frankly, Edwin would be seen as a progressive in the time. But when looking at what's going on and how he's treating these things, there are still these things that are popping up that, with the overarching plot lines we have in these games, seem like they're on purpose.
And there is something to say where people still do that nowadays, where people are like, oh, well, you're so progressive, so they forget that they can do any wrong. Mm-hmm. And if people call them out on it, or call someone else out on it, they're like, oh, well, they're so progressive, but they're so woke, but he loves his wife. Right. It's like, I don't think Edwin could have very well been a feminist king for the time period, but from modern day standards and from how he is treating her objectively, not great.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back in a weird way to authorial intent, but instead of just intention in general, where it's like, sure, we can go into the mindsets of these characters, but it's the difference, and this also gets brought up a lot with the concepts, not will care specifically, because that's wild, but like the idea of like, when I would say, when anyone, frankly, would say something like, oh, William is doing XYZ because ABC, and it's like, oh, so you're saying that morally ABC is justifiable because of this. It's like, no, we're talking about the mentality of the character itself in William's mind, in William's own justifications and self-riddled whatever. That's what his mind is explaining. And to Edwin, when we say things like seeing Fiona as a robot and seeing this quote unquote perfect version of her, which has no personality, which has those things, he's not noticing the difference because he never truly knew Fiona and he doesn't care about her. He's not noticing the difference because of these subconscious things that he doesn't even pick up on.
I also forgot, Connie pointed this out, I believe. I don't remember if you pointed it out in the video. On David's first birthday, the cake that's there is this like double, triple tiered, like
beautifully decorated cake that has it. I believe it's decorated like with chocolate and stuff, which with David asking for chocolate chip ice cream means that that's a thing. But then we see the David cake that M1 made, and it looks store-bought, let's be real. But also what's funny about it is we can go into that room years later and the cake isn't rotted. It's just kind of dusty, and, Watsonian answer. They didn't want to model all that, so they just put a dust texture on it and left it there. Conspiracy theory option. I don't think that cake was real. I think she got a prop cake. She got a plastic cake.
Nick can tell the difference between fake food and real food. It can't tell the difference between endoskeletons and people.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really funny point.
This is good. Like,
and point to Edwin being an absent-minded guy wandering through life. The idea that he looks at it and goes, "Damn, that cake looks good. All right, let's get the kid," and doesn't even question it for a second.
Like, also he doesn't even go get the kid. The mimic just made a cake, and it's still her job to get the kid. You are free. You freed up your afternoon. Go get your kid.
Yeah, you're not.
You go get
working.
him.
Yeah, it's one of those things that people point out when guys just refuse to do household stuff because they just didn't grow up having men do that or being made to do that, so they just don't realize that they can do that and should and split the work.
Yeah, you can do the laundry. Did you know that?
Edward's never done laundry in his life.
There's weaponized incompetence where it's doing it willfully, but there's also subconscious weaponized incompetence. We're you might
Edwin
not
has the
willfully,
subconscious incompetence of you go get the kid, even though I freed up my afternoon and I'm just going to be sitting in this room alone for 30 minutes. Now you go get him.
Whether or not you're intending to weaponize it, you are.
Yeah.
Sorry, Corey, you brought up the them waiting in the room, and I just keep thinking at this point I don't think William killed David, but it's a possibility. I mean, it's William.
I'm 100% sure he was there is enough clues that I think William was 100%. This is a whole different conversation, so I won't go into all this stuff, but I think there is enough clues that William is 100% behind Fiona's death. There is not the same amount of evidence given to us for him behind David's, and I think if he was behind both, we would have an equal amount for David. Meanwhile, we have much more for Fiona specifically.
But again, it is he's William child murder Afton, so whatever.
Yeah, so
but
there's a chance.
I have this image in my head of if William killed David, of William and Henry being at David's birthday party in that room, and Edwin's M1's taking a while. I'm gonna go see what's taking them. I'm gonna go find my kid. And he leaves the room, and William just turns to Henry we need to go.
We need to go.
I also
and
like
William's,
the other visual of
Henry's what did you do?
I also love the other visual of just like, we see M1 is very, M1 has the one goal of I need a child to raise because that is like my sole purpose as a robot right now.
Because that's her programming as a wife bot. Yeah.
But at the time of the accident, it's still very detached and robotic. So I do love the concept of like, hey, go and get the kid. Goes out there, sees that there's a dead David, and then just comes back and Edwin's like, hey, where's David? Edwin goes, oh, I found David dead outside. Is there a problem?
Like, or the morbid option, she just like go get David and just brings his dead body in.
That's very possible.
Although like he's not moving, so she's like, "Oh man, an endoskeleton. We need to put this."
Yeah, which is my theory of the reason they have in like FNAF 2. They're like, "Oh, our working theory is that it can't tell the difference between an endoskeleton and a human." Is that the Mimic did that? Hence why, which is why I think people are stuffed in Secret of the Mimic, is that once they were dead and unmoving, it's like, oh, it's an endoskeleton. You should be in a suit, and we just stuff them in there. Yeah. And they just use that as an explanation for when ghost stuff started happening. Because that's their point of reference. They were like, okay, sure.
On that wonderfully graphic and morbid note, I think we're at 2 hours.
Like a cat bringing a
probably.
I think we're going to end with the Roadkill collection. But is there something that you two are working on that you wanted to shout out while you're here?
Real quick, I want to say my last feminism note
go for it.
I've been to like 8 Spirit Halloweens so far this year, and I have seen exactly 1 Chica costume and 12 of all the boys.
Well, first of all, girls don't like video games, so write that down.
Yeah, which I mean, yeah, that happened because of real, like, literally, I learned, because I'm a game design minor. I literally learned this in a class from my female professor, who it was there was a huge gaming like market crash in I think the 80s, and they needed to like move the gaming stuff from like technology stuff to like kids stuff, and at the time it was boy aisle and girl aisle, and they asked Nintendo which one, and they went boy aisle. And that's the literally the base reason why video games are for boys became a thing.
It's almost like 80 to 90% of all gender expectations are immediately arbitrary on a coin flip.
Yeah. Or based on marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you need to put your girls in pink and your boys in blue so that if you have a boy child and then you have a girl child, you need to buy all new clothes and stuff because you can't reuse stuff. You need to buy more things from us.
Yeah. So, working on stuff. Probably won't record it tonight, but I am almost done with a script for a specifically video on M3. I think is a good way.
The potential
to
M3.
Yeah, the potential M3.
Did you finish
right? It's actually interesting. We because we start off talking about the mimic custody.
Mimic custody battle. Yeah, divorce leads children to the worst places.
And like M3 being glitch trap and like. Where that came from. And the thing is, it's a theory where I'm like, all of the pieces fall together, but we are going to sound the most insane we have ever sounded in any video.
We've come on the channel and sounded like we've come on the channel and be like, if the DCI exists, they're Charlie's friends. Fiona might be Henry's sister. We've come on the channel and sounded like we huffed glue before, but if anything, this video might be the one where we sound like we're huffing glue. But also, there's been crazier stuff. Since then, I've learned that there have been like Blackfoot ferret theories where it's like, oh, okay, no, we're actually okay.
We're normal. We're so normal.
We finally made it. We had a pretty solid but unfinished theory of like finally figuring out what the deal is with Eleanor, because we actually had like ideas and evidence. And Connie recently made a break in the case where we were like, oh, we're 100% right. So we're finally going to finish that up. So that's going to be really great.
So two scripts we're very solid about, M3 and Eleanor.
Wise. Otherwise, we did our Sonic video. We're going to want to work on another one because we love Sonic, and the Sonic theorizing community doesn't exist
the
in an
other video
way.
We did also record a video talking about a extremely obscure indie game. Like,
okay, so let me put the obscurity. So I was inspired by Ayaz's videos of him talking about video games he loves, specifically like fan games and stuff. It's not a fan game; it's an original game. It is so obscure that on the Steam page there is one piece of fan art, and it's mine. So I think that puts things in a bit of perspective of,
but
it is incredibly obscure, but it is just so filled with potential. We had to make a video about it. So that script is there.
Editing got pushed back slightly because while we were working on it, he updated the English translation. So now we have to cut all the bits where we're like, English translation's a little weird here.
Yeah, the change is massive. Like I had to re-record footage for it, and the change is staggering. I think. I didn't see in the credits that they rehired. They might have just redone the English translation on their own, and if they did, then that's impressive. That's an impressive shift.
But yeah, so
and then I have a script based on a theory around Look Outside, but Connie hasn't cleaned it up yet.
Right. And then what was the other one you wanted to do? Oh, your Deltarune thing, but that's gonna be a while.
I have to sit down. The issue is that Connie still hasn't played Undertale or Deltarune,
much like Edwin.
With her.
Much like Edwin, we have a lot of ideas, and we can't really focus on just one. And
that's fair. I
feel that. Honestly, the multi-working is the best because we recorded like 3 scripts at the same time. And it's actually made our work it's made our workflow like a lot better. So I think in the future we're going to record multiple scripts at once.
Probably end up recording the M3 and Eleanor videos at the same time, and that's going to rule.
Probably the Look Outside one. Talking about women. It's specifically surrounding Sybil. It's a shorter one, and it's about a more obscure game, which Look Outside should not be an obscure game. It's gorgeous. I love that game.
We were playing it, and we just have troubles with scheduling to finish playing it on the channel.
No, that's me. I'm so behind on games. I haven't played a horror game in like 2 months on the streams because I was like, I'll sit down and finally play through Deltarune. So that's all my Wednesdays, and I'm still working on that. And then I was like, we'll do everything until something comes out, and then Silksong came out. It's like, we'll do Silksong. Oh, Sonic Racing Crossroads having a festival. We'll do that. There's back-to-back festivals. Okay, sorry, Silksong. Like.
Yeah, listen, just if you ever play Look Outside, the only thing I will spoil for you is you can save the rat baby, and that is so important.
Having previously played, so I realized since it was on sale and I rebought and played it, the witch's house gaslit me. You can save the rat baby.
Okay.
Just keep that
trying.
We kind of ended up accidentally sticking with FNAF for a while, but that was never the plan.
Yeah.
We love FNAF, and it is so ripe for theorizing that when we talk about like making theories and specifically about video games or discussing video games, FNAF is going to come up a lot. So, and we love it, and it's probably the most like puzzling of everything we talk about. But even then, like, there's a lot of uncovered territory with certain games, certain stuff. Specifically, the reason I think there's uncovered territory with Sonic is, unlike FNAF, it's not a mystery-based genre. I know there was one comment on our Black Doom video. That video is, because the Amy video we like give a little grace. The Black Doom Chow Ancients video is so deep in Sonic lore. It is on the around the bottom of the iceberg, and there is this one comment of like, I literally had no idea what any of this meant. I listened to the video anyway, and I'm like, you know what? Thanks, man.
In Sonic X, when the Meta-Rex come in, and like,
we just drop. It is like, you have to know Sonic to like, and we explain a little bit, and we let stuff play out to kind of do a better explanation, because we don't expect even Sonic fans to know everything. But like, you have to know enough about Sonic to be enough into it to know what's going on here, to know even who Black Doom is. I mean, that's why we keep referencing him as the devil from the Bible, because that's how most people know him as.
Oh yeah, no, it's like how Jackie's Box has more views than any trailer for Secret of the Mimic does.
Yeah.
So I have gotten people to understand, like, I've gotten non-FNAF fans to understand bits and Secret of the Mimic and be like, okay, David with the ball, and people go, I know what you're talking about.
I mean, the funniest thing about, because I'm sure more people know about like was that the Bite of 87 meme than any FNAF lore. And the funniest thing is that there is an answer to that question, and it is no. It's not the Bite of 87.
Before we close out, I do want to say, funniest part of Jackie's box was when it was first blowing up. One of my friends who knows nothing about FNAF just sent me like a link to like the Twitter clip that was going viral of just David's verse and then just ending with like my name is the fucking man Miko, yeah, with just question marks and nothing else. Yeah. And I had to respond. So the funny thing is, this is accurate.
Yeah,
it was crazy. It was crazy to see something break containment that big because like fans knew about it very quickly. And then it broke containment. And I've seen like some Sonic stuff break containment, but not to the scale of that Jackie's box did. Mm-hmm.
I'm still so mad no one made a I couldn't find any Jackie's box edits with yellow jackets, because there's a girl named Jackie, and she's fucking Becky.
I see that. That's why.
But yeah. Thank you for having us.
A lot of stuff coming up. Oh, it's always a pleasure. Like I always say, I always want to have guests on, and I'm really bad at scheduling. Literally, we love
jabbering.
I think one of us reached out to the other, like, oh, we should do this, and then I didn't follow up at all. And then you guys were like, hey, do you still want to do this? I'm like, oh shit, I do want to do this. It was like, oh, how about Tuesday? And like 2 days ago, I was like, yeah, sure.
I thought it was like it was short notice, but like it's one of those where since I'm in my senior year, I am in the mindset of people being like, now you have to contact employers multiple times. Make sure they're still, I'm in that mindset. So I was just like, I should ask again, just to get. This is why you ask again.
I'm in the mindset of like, if I ask to be on something, I feel like I'm intruding.
Same.
But you mentioned something about wanting to do a mimic feminism stream on the podcast, and I was like, oh my gosh, we need to be there.
Please.
Yeah, because it was one of those things where like I wanted to make some kind of content about it because it's so ripe for a conversation, and I didn't want to just do a podcast by myself because I don't think it would have done it justice, and I didn't want to do a video on it because it would have been 2 hours long. So like, speaking of,
well, here we are.
Well, here we go.
But regardless, I'm the king of like seeing a notification going, oh, I need to get more information for this. Let me go get more information for this. And by the time I get more information, I forgot I got the message. But because I read the notification, I don't have a notification anymore.
Yep. It's called having 100%. An ADHD diagnosis.
It sure is.
Professors love it. And by that, I mean, I might need to contact and see if I can get an accommodation for putting in my assignments a bit late because I keep forgetting to put them in on time.
I tried to do online classes for my last 3 classes of college because it was over the summer. Mm-hmm. And something about it being online, I was like an A to B students for the entirety of college. Those 3 online classes, I almost flunked out. Because I literally, I just could not having a classroom structure. I'd forget I have a class. Like, I'd be like, oh, there was a class today. I forgot I was enrolled. Like, well, regardless, like I said, it's always a pleasure. And folks, links are in the description. Go over there. You probably already are. If you're watching a FNAF podcast, you probably already subscribed to them. But in case you're not, the links are down there.
We're trying to reach. I would like to reach 100K to get that little fancy little check mark. And also, I've said because we have merch now, and I've said there is most of it is like create when you buy it. But there's stuff that you pre-order, so you pre-order like 50 of them, and you have to do that. I don't feel safe doing any of that until we have 100K because I don't want to order 50 acrylic keychains and sell 3.
Yep. No, I totally get it.
My pocket, so I don't feel safe.
The majority of merch I've done has been pre-order to sale because I have that crippling fear of if I buy 50 of these and sell 10, I live with 40 of these.
I don't know, and there were people who showed interest in acrylic keychains, but it's like I don't, because I just went on all the community posts and I was like, what do you guys want for merch? So and people showed interest in like acrylic keychains and stuff specifically, but those ones on the site I'm using are not print on demand. I'd have to order like 50 of them, and I don't want to make that risk, so that's a gift for those. Potentially we'll do that when we get like 100K.
Keep your eyes out.
And maybe we'll do something special for it. Not like probably not like a face reveal or anything.
Timeline video.
True.
Yeah,
we're working on it. I promise.
It's kind of been shoved. It's kind of been
playing Sonic Racing Crossworlds distracting you? Because I'll tell you what, every time I'm not working, That's all I want to do right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
I am locked the fuck in.
I need to go through all the voice lines because I've seen
My mind is just like Sage calls Metal stupid. It's so
really
funny.
good. Have
They're
you
so
seen how
So-
Omega disrespects Vector?
No, but I have seen that when like Blaze annoys him, he says initiating regicide.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, there is a line.
Someone was saying a lot of Omega's dialogue is there'll be like, haha, got you, Omega, and then he's like, initiating murder mode, I'm going to kill you.
When Omega
In it
initiates
for.
the conversation between him and Vector, he says something along the lines of, Vector, analysis, a detective who cannot get a clue, get paid, or no, cannot earn a wage, get a clue, or a date. Omega looks at Vector and says, "You have no bitches, you don't know anything, and you're broke as hell." I'm like, Omega.
Yeah,
Vector's like, okay, man.
Vector's comeback is essentially
Stop to
nuh-uh,
that.
which is in character.
Also,
Yeah.
insanely funny considering like seems to be the only one that Sega is allowing to be implied to have a romantic.
Yeah, with him and Vanilla.
Are officially together though, so like,
Sega's like, you're not allowed to imply that romance exists, but like Vector and Vanilla is fine because
Yeah.
you know, but they're also both adults, so that might be part of it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Because Vector's like 20-something. Vanilla's a mother. I
Vanilla's
assume she's
probably older, Vanilla's probably older than him because she has a
they're both
6-year-old.
adults at least.
Yeah,
yeah.
which makes sense. I mean, it's also one of those where
At the
like,
club.
yeah, which man, Sonic Feminism podcast is a whole other
God.
thing that because we actually
God.
have deep thoughts on that.
There's a lot of
'cause
thoughts around that.
history.
That's one where
It's
like
30 years of messing with stuff and
Yeah.
highs and lows.
I
But
miss Sally.
regardless, thank you for watching the Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast, where the pizza abilities are endless. We hope to enjoy your future patronage. Bye-bye for now.
Bye bye.